Welcome to the Habits and Hustle podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
So we have a great guest today on Habits and Hustle. This is one podcast I was very excited to do. Her name is Kelly Noonan Gores. Gores or Gores?
Either one.
Either one?
Yeah.
Okay. She was the filmmaker who made the groundbreaking documentary on Netflix called Heal. And now she has a book with the same name, basically out now. So this is actually, like I said, this is, of course, I really loved the documentary. I found it to be fascinating about how your mind can heal your body. And you had so many experts, alternative experts, with examples of how this happened over time. And first of all, how did you were an actress, you said, right?
Yes.
How did you go from being an actress then to transition into making such an amazing health doc?
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So I started acting when I was like 5-6 years old. Did it on and off my whole life. And I think when I was in my 20s, I really wanted to have this successful career. Every actor wants to win an Oscar and all this stuff. So I think I actually started seeking out like healers and energy workers and hypnotherapists and all sorts of different things to get myself out of my own way in acting, because I'm a people pleaser and type A, try to do everything right, which is not conducive to being freely expressive as an actor.
That's right. I guess that's true, right?
Yeah, you can't care what people think.
Right.
So I was always trying to do it right, and I was very, not as free as I should have been. So I think I just started experiencing all of these healers and energy workers, and then also reading like about the power of our thoughts, and I'd, be running, and I'd be setting intentions for my acting career and all this stuff. And
you can swear, by the way. You can say shit. Yeah. You can say it. I heard the shh coming out, yeah.
And then so I started learning about the power of the mind and how our thoughts become things and the law of attraction, if you will. And I just started paying attention, like was getting less and less happy and fulfilled talking about acting, and more turned on and lit up and passionate about the power of the mind and as it relates to our health and our lifestyle and abundance and everything else. So I was still acting, but I was started to think about doing this documentary, and people would come up to me and be like, how are you so happy? Or how are you manifesting all this stuff? And so I just was like, I should just put together a film of all, because it's a powerful medium. I grew up in the entertainment industry. Put all of the teachers that inspired and empowered me into the film to teach others. And then, of course, never quite, I had success in an acting career, but never to the level that I wanted. So it was just a perfect segue into something that really, it was almost like I was holding on to a dream from childhood that was no longer fulfilling me.
Well, it's interesting because like a lot of people have, dreams or want to create a documentary or a movie, but from an idea to execution is much more difficult than that, right? So how were you able to take it from an idea and a passion and put it into actual, to an actual substantive movie? Like, how did you raise the money? How did you find the way to do it?
Yeah.
And then get Netflix to pick it up.
Right.
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
I kind of learned as I went along, but it's funny, once I paid attention to how passionate I was about the topic, and once I was finally ready to do it, I felt like there was definitely like an energy behind it that wasn't my own, so I would just kind of remain open and trust that whoever came across my path, if I was feeling good about it, like they would help me. So of course I needed help along the way, someone to finance it, found someone to give me the money. It was very low budget.
Yeah, so. What was the budget on that? Because it was all healers and all doctors, right? Alternative doctors.
Yeah. We actually shot it for like $400,000. And then, of course,
that's not much
finishing it and releasing it, there was almost twice that as well.
Right.
So, but it was under $1 million. And I think it's pretty high quality for that amount. And it took a skeleton crew of just really passionate, like-minded people. I luckily found a producer that was my producing partner, is just really good at the details and in the weeds, and he really trusted and supported my vision. so I could do what I was good at, and he did all the
Right.
the details.
So basically, you focus on what you're good at, and you found someone else to focus on the things that you were kind of more weaker at, basically.
Yeah, and didn't bring me joy. It was draining me. You know?
And also, I find it was very timely, right? Like, I think right now, I mean, more than, let's say, 10 years ago, people are much more interested in learning about alternative ways for healing and for health. I mean, there's a huge trend and just movement about that, you know? And so I think it hit in a really, really interesting time. And, you know, so like walk me through. So basically a lot of these people that you have in it, like Deepak Chopra, the guy who wrote your foreword, Joe Dispenza has a great story too.
Yeah.
First thing what I found was interesting was that 90% of people that go to see a doctor, it's usually because of stress.
Yes, some form of stress.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, that's what all the doctors and scientists and researchers in the film kind of agree, that 95% of what takes us to the doctor, 90%, is stress-related illness. And that could be physical stress, which is injury, chemical stress, which is obviously from our food and the environment, and then emotional stress, psychological stress, which we all have in large amounts now. They're saying that we're just kind of, we have this fight or flight system that's built in for our survival, but it's meant to just be turned on for a short amount of time so that you can run away from the saber-toothed tiger or the bear or all these things in our past. And now we've evolved. We don't have those immediate life-threatening things in our environment, but our brain is thinking we are, because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or we're, inundated with information on social media. So we're all running chronic stress, and our bodies can't sustain it.
Absolutely. Like, it's like there's a whole like epidemic or theory that, unless you are working like hardcore all the time, you're not like you're not succeeding, you're not this. And like that overall pressure, even like the cortisol levels in your body just like skyrockets. Everyone's like living at this level that is just you're chronically like ill, basically. And people don't even know until something like cancer happens or whatever, like and other diseases. But walk me through, so give me some, let's talk about some of the things that you kind of were able to discover making this. So we know about stress. Tell us about other stuff that you were kind of not even, this movie kind of like shed light on for you.
Yeah, I think one of them is, the power of our subconscious mind, and it's subconscious. We're not even aware that these belief systems are running our lives. So basically, it's all these things that we do automatically that we're not conscious of. But it's brilliant because we don't have to think so much when we're going through life or walking. I can walk without thinking about it now. As a baby, not so much. Same thing when you're learning to drive. So when we're from the ages of in utero to 7 years old, our subconscious brain, our brain is just downloading programs from our caretakers in our environment, whether it's your teacher, your preacher, your parents. And those belief systems and perception of life become your own. So, and those subconscious beliefs, Bruce Lipton in the film says that 75% of them are negative and disempowering. So we're not even aware we have these negative limiting beliefs, but they're running our lives.
It's amazing.
That was like a big light bulb. Like, I got that we, take on other people's beliefs, and, we repeat the patterns of our parents. Some people call it heredity, but I call it like we're just repeating their programming that they're giving us.
No, I agree. But the issue is when something is subconscious, like you said, how does someone then change it and tweak it so then it doesn't work against them, right? Because that's how all these illnesses happen, right? From all these subconscious behaviors that we have, right?
Right. So some of them can be changed through habits, right? Meditation practice can lower your stress, can drop you in, and the more you practice, the longer you practice, the deeper you go into your intuition, your higher self, and you can stop being so reactive and triggered to these disempowering beliefs. And then ultimately, you're living from such a place of expansion and peace that your beliefs change, your programming changes.
Right.
So it can come from habits and spiritual practices. Also, there's a million practitioners out there that can help facilitate. Hypnotherapy is one where you can go back into your past, part of your brain, part of your mind, memories, past trauma, and reprogram.
Are you talking about what's it called? NDR? Not NDR.
Linguistic programming, NLP?
NLP, yes.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about, NLP?
I'm talking about hypnotherapy.
Okay,
but I don't know.
Okay, because that's
the correlation.
That kind of sounded like NLP too, which is kind of very similar, but like reprogramming your brain to like where past traumas were.
Yes.
NLP, that's what I was thinking of.
NLP, Psych K, there's a whole bunch
so
out
many.
there. Yeah.
And I guess it's because people, unfortunately, people wait or people don't make that change until it's too late, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so and then they get ill and all that other stuff. So was there something besides, of course, you became really, really passionate about this, was there anything going on in your life where something kind of struck you, where it became so much more of like a need to kind of get the information out there? Or is it just like the knowledge that you were kind of getting from using it for yourself? For acting or...
You would think that I either went through a health crisis or lost someone close to me to a devastating illness. Most people do. You would assume that for me to have that much energy to go do this thing. But thank God that wasn't my case. So for whatever the reason, it was just a calling. Like I just felt compelled to do it.
Right.
Enough to where I'd been thinking about it for 10 years. Wasn't ready to do it until I was ready to do it, and I think that has to do with the timing.
Mm-hmm.
And
timing,
the
of
universe didn't make me ready until the timing was kind of perfect. And I thought the timing was perfect when it first came out 2 years ago. But then it came out on Netflix a year ago, and the timing was even more perfect because everything is wellness now.
Everything. Like, I always say when I started doing all this health and fitness stuff back, I don't want to date myself, but like forever ago, it was like, I was like the anomaly, right? And now it's just like a Me Too thing, right? It's like become like the biggest thing in the world, health, fitness, wellness. The wellness is a huge umbrella. Mm-hmm. But I think it's good. I think I think that people are becoming much more, cognizant of how important these, all these modalities are to your overall health, and so a couple of things. The book really touches on conventional versus holistic medicine. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So holistic, a lot of people think it's woo-woo, right? Not based in holistic, science. It's not evidence-based, but there's so much science and research behind all of these alternative treatments, even meditation, things that people have been doing successfully for thousands of years, using herbs, supplements that people are saying is, acupuncture, there's no evidence behind its effects, and it's all backed by science now, and so holistic just means that everything is connected and to treat you as a whole person. Knowing that every organ system, every energetic system, mind, body, everything is connected. We're connected to the outside world through a field, quantum field.
Right.
Everything is energy. So holistic is just taken into the whole picture. And unfortunately, the problem with Western medicine is they're treating based on separation. They're treating, not accounting for they may treat a symptom that you have for your thyroid, but that pill or treatment or whatever is going to knock off the rest of the systems in your body. So what's the payoff,
Right. I mean, that's the problem, right? And also the issue is people, as much as it's become trendy, like we talk about, and there's backed evidence, I think also people don't understand what they don't understand and what they don't see. Like I went the other week, I went to see a doctor. She's an acupuncturist, an herbalist, and she does all that like muscle testing, right? And she put all these vials on my chest, and she's like taking my arm and pushing it, and like, okay, you have a lot of toxins in your body, and like she was saying all these things to me where the truth is, it's actually kind of interesting. She hit a lot of things on the head that I thought I have, where the other doctors, conventional doctors, would never ever pick up on. But at the same time, I'm like, well, how does she know this by putting a vial and moving my hand a little bit? Like it does seem a little woo-woo, you know? But I think there's a lot to be said for someone who actually believes in it. I think it's a placebo thing, right? If you believe it's gonna work, it's gonna work. Yeah. And if you go in kind of like, this is all a bunch of nonsense, then you kind of get that same result.
1,000,000%.
Right?
And that's kind of what you learn in the documentary, and it's from all different, spiritual teachers and then like totally legit science researchers. They have found that like the placebo is real. The power of belief, what you believe and expect, and how you perceive the world, that is probably the most powerful, more powerful than even diet, exercise, and all these things that
Right.
are important holistically, but the mind and the belief is really the most important factor. And that's why, even people's belief in possibility is tied to how a doctor delivers the news. So, if the doctor's not enthusiastic and doesn't seem hopeful that a treatment is going to work, the patient is going to buy into that, and they're not going to believe that treatment's going to work, and 9 times out of 10 it's not. You know, so it's just really, we have to really pay attention to
we got to train our brains. I mean, there are people I agree with you. I find that do you believe that there are some people who are just more naturally optimistic versus pessimistic, and therefore that feeds into it? Because I'm much more of a pessimist, right? Versus my husband, who's happy-go-lucky constantly. The truth is, he's never sick. He always looks at the things, everything in his world's happy, 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 and truthfully, great things constantly kind of surround him. I'm the one who's much more I don't know about this, and then I'm the one with the bad immune system. I'm the one getting sick all the time. I do think how you actually legitimately are programmed and think really does manifest itself.
100%. Everything is frequency, and they talk about this in the film as well. Negative emotions release negative chemistry into your body from your brain. Positive emotions elicit healing chemistry into your body. So if it's a pattern, if you're staying in the negative too long or constantly, it's going to take a toll on your body. And then it also affects your vibration, the frequency you're putting out there.
Right.
And like attracts like.
I agree with that.
So you're going to be coherent with more negative experiences, while he's going to be coherent and available to more positive.
Absolutely. That's why this movie and your book and everything really spoke to me, because I really do believe there is such a mind-body connection that way, in terms of just healing yourself, preventative. So you were just talking about the subconscious mind and placebo effect. What are the three? There's based on 3 things, though. It said the placebo effect.
Yeah. There's conditioning. Assigning meaning, and expectation, I believe, are the 3.
Expectation.
So basically, take 2 groups. One gets the drug, one gets the sugar pill. So, your condition, or it's hard to explain from that standpoint, but it's basically whatever meaning you're giving to that pill. So that
whatever that drug or whatever the pill is.
The drug pill. Then you take it, you say that pill is going to make me, let's say it's an antidepressant.
Okay.
So you think you're taking an antidepressant drug, but you're really taking an inert substance, sugar pill. But you believe and you assign meaning to it, where that pill is I'm going to swallow it, it's going to make me feel better. And then you expect. And so your body actually releases the healing chemistry that you're expecting into your body. So you actually do feel better. So that in these depression studies,
and that's why it works.
Yeah.
Right. So exactly. So if you believe it's good, that's the whole thing. If you believe it's going to work, or you expect it to work, either way, then the chances are it's going to work.
Yes.
Right. Versus the nocebo effect.
Yes.
Okay. So tell us what that is.
So placebo in Latin is the positive thinking, and nocebo is negative thinking. So, we talk about it in the film, where the nocebo effect is...
Oh, nocebo, sorry.
Yeah, nocebo is when the doctor tells you that, there's a 12% chance that people with your type of cancer are going to die in 6 months. 88% of people are going to buy into that and die within 6 months, which is perpetuating the statistics, because they're buying into that negative belief. So they're focusing on this negative thing and focusing on it actually manifests in their life. So, and at the same time, it's that fear, that negativity, that all of that stress is then exacerbating the condition and speeding along the degenerative process.
Right.
So the nocebo effect is where, placebo is positive belief and expectation. Nocebo is negative belief and expectation, and that can actually make you sicker and even cause death, which in the most extreme case.
So, what do you believe then when someone when someone has, let's say, stage 4 cancer, and it's metastasized around their body, all over their body? What is the chance if someone just believes, right? I believe I'm going to get better. I mean, is there at some point reality that says, you know what, this is it's too far down the road, right? It's no matter how much you believe and you hope that there's sometimes like you're past the point.
Yeah, and it's definitely easy to do that because it's terrifying if you're in that state, right? So the examples that I give, anyone that has cancer, especially if it's a later stage, I recommend reading Radical Remission and Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me. Anita was in the film. She was as late stage cancer as you get. She went into a coma. Her organs were shutting down. She had lemon-sized tumors metastasized all throughout her body, coming out of her skin, from her neck to her abdomen. And the doctors were basically like, she's in a coma. There's no way she can recover from this. Say your goodbyes. In that coma, she had a near-death experience and had a shift in perception. See the film or read the book.
I know what you're talking about. I'm not saying that I know what you're talking about, but for people who are listening, I mean,
and she realized her big moment of aha as she's in this other realm is that her whole life she had been making decisions from fear. And in this other realm, she felt nothing but the unconditional love that many people, when they've gone to the other side and come back or whatever, just describe this like it's an undescribable love, and that's our source. That's where we come from. That's God, that's heaven, that's whatever you want to call it. And so she realized, she actually had a conversation with her dad, the essence of her dad, who she had a very tumultuous relationship with in life. And she realized there was no judgment. It was just unconditional love. And he told her, go back and live your life without fear and you will heal. And she was like, I don't want to go back to that life. Like that body was all
I remember that
God.
movie,
And she's like, I want to stay here. This feels great. And he said, no, you're not done with your mission. So she went back into her body. She woke up. She knew things. She had this awareness of things that she could not have known in a coma. Conversations she recounted that happened 40 feet down the hall. She just had this awareness. So it was all true. She shifted from fear to love, and her body healed. So in my belief, I feel like you can always come back from anything. She embodies how our bodies are designed to heal, and we just need to find the right formula to allow them to recover and come back. But she's the most extreme case, so I do believe you can come back from anything, but it takes a massive shift in your consciousness.
But how does that, I saw that in the documentary and I was like blown away. I mean, like I'm like, is this even real? Like, how is this possible? Because, in like my life, I know people who've had really just, right now even, people who are really sick and like they are so fighting. They're fighting their lives to be alive, and they are willing to try anything. And then they go around the world and they look for shamans and they look for any type of healer, and it doesn't work, right? What do you say about those people who really like their mind is in the right place? They are like in that space where they believe and they really do have hope, and it still doesn't work.
Yeah. Again, that's the question.
You're not God, but
yeah.
but
and I kind of talked about it in the film too, like especially with children,
right.
Like we get like unprocessed trauma and these negative subconscious beliefs can lead to a woman in her 50s having cancer,
right.
Because she's just taking care of everybody else and neglected herself, whatever. But what about the children that come into the world sick or childhood leukemia or whatever it is?
Right.
Like that doesn't seem like it's from unprocessed trauma, maybe past lives. All of that is outside of my scope.
Right.
But, and we talk about it in the film, it's like people, who knows what people's destiny or fate or mission in this life is. And also it's so hard for people that love them, love someone going through something and they're not even open to thinking this way, or someone that's doing everything right and still not working. So I don't have all the answers.
Right.
I just know.
There is definitely, exactly. I don't expect you to, right? You're not God. But I find that's my like pessimism coming in.
Yeah.
Like, well, I've seen it on both sides, right? I've seen people who've had, miraculous things happen when they do believe and they have that type of attitude. And then I've seen also not such great things happen, But I think overall there is something to be said for how your mind and how these things, the mind over matter, really makes a difference with anything.
Exactly. And a lot of times there's some, even though they're like positive or whatever, like behind closed doors, they're still really angry at the cancer. They're still in major resistance. They're not in full acceptance and surrender. And we talk about.
I know, I saw that. You talk about that a lot, about like how you have like the resistance. So you were saying who was the expert in the book that was talking about the resistance?
Peter Crone,
right?
The young guy.
Yeah, and about how that also is detrimental. Mm-hmm. But why? Why would God forbid when that happens? How do you just be like, okay, I'm taking it? I don't understand how the resistance plays a part, because isn't that also counterintuitive to the fact that you are fighting and you have hope and you don't want to believe it? Doesn't that make a difference?
It does, and there's healthy resistance, and then there's unhealthy resistance, right?
Yes.
So, it's healthy resistance if you're lifting weights and you want to get bigger muscles, but then to lift weights that are too heavy for you or doing too many reps or not the right, form, it's going to be detrimental. So resisting life, this is why healing for me is more of a spiritual conversation. And this is something that Peter, the guy who talks about it in the film, really believes, that life is always working for us, not to us, not against us. So we have to get to the place, if we're going through a healing crisis especially, we've got to get to a place where we trust that God, the universe, whatever, is working for us, and we're going through stuff. It's kind of an alchemical process. You got to go through the fire to get honed into your highest evolution of self, right? So disease is part of that, And so at a certain point, we have to stop spending our valuable energy fighting back against it, and just surrender and go, okay, what is the lesson? What is the blessing? What is this trying to teach me? So that I can let that go, so I can forgive that person, so I can wake up and treat myself better, with self-love, and also working out and eating right. And, we're beating ourselves up mentally and physically every day by eating shit and being stressed all the time and not moving our bodies, whatever it is. So disease is a wake-up call. It's life working for you. And to stop, one of the first steps is really, you can feel sorry for yourself, but you don't want to stay there.
Right,
you can grieve this horrible diagnosis you got, but then you got to go, okay, now what I'm going to do? I have to accept what's going on, so I'm not wasting valuable energy resisting it, and I have to face it head on, and I got to keep doing my best every day, taking steps forward.
How about fasting? They say fasting for healing. Do you believe in that? Do you think that by fasting it helps with your healing process?
I do. Digestion takes up so much energy every day in our body, and I think especially in the United States, our portions are way too big. We are eating, you work out, you're walking, doing podcasts 5 hours a day, like you're burning, you can do whatever you want.
Not really, honey, not really, but that's a whole other podcast.
For most people, we're eating, digestion takes away all our energy from that we should be using to repair. So like first it's digesting your food, and then if there's not food to digest, then your body's like, as long as you're not stressed, your body's like, okay, what can I go through? They go through everything to see what tissues need repairing and restoring and all of that stuff. So our body is trying to heal in every moment, and we get in the way by too much food or stress or toxins and overload.
Right.
So fasting, every mammal in nature, when they're sick, they find a quiet little shaded safe area, and they don't eat. They let their body, they may eat some grasses to throw up, to get rid of any pathogen or whatever. But if they become wounded or they're sick, they fast, because their body, it speeds their healing. Because their body is able to repair, because it's not using all the energy to digest. So, and there is some research in the book from Kelly Turner, who did all this research on cancer.
I saw that, yeah. I want to talk about that.
It's counterintuitive, right? You think that, especially if you're going through chemo and you're withering away, like you're like, oh my God, that woman needs to eat. We need to give her calories, whatever. And a lot of Western institutions don't care about what kind of food you're eating. They give you M&Ms and shitty hamburgers in the hospital.
I can't believe it. I know. It's unbelievable.
And it's like double detriment on your body. So there's these clinics where you go and they prove that fasting under supervision and with, I don't know the exact protocol for everybody dealing with cancer, but it actually speeds along healing and shrinking of tumors and all of that stuff.
I saw that, and I was actually blown away, because I know that when people are sick, that's what they do. They give them like Ensure and Boost and all sorts of garbage but I always thought eating well, but still eating.
Yeah.
So when I saw that whole thing about fasting for cancer, I was really surprised.
And if you can't do it under a supervised environment, I would say just be conscious and aware that when you're eating heavy meats and stuff that need to be broken down, take more energy to break down, your body's taking away resources that it could be using to heal. So if you're needing to put calories in your system, vegetables, raw fruits and vegetables, making sure you don't have any other digestive issues that counter
exactly
too. But juices, things that are easy for your body to digest, but are chock full of nutrients.
So what kind of major takeaways did you learn from doing the film that you've kind of integrated into your life? Like habits that you've done, or what have you changed that in your life based on all this information?
I'm a little more dedicated to my meditation practice because of just how important it is for me to turn within. We're so overstimulated in life, especially with social media. And negative news and all of these wonderful things happening in our society.
That's right.
And so it's so important every day, whether it's 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night, whatever your practice looks like.
What do you do? What's your practice?
I learned transcendental meditation.
People love that. I've heard great things about that.
It's great. Yeah. And I also recommend it because you go through a course, which is only 4 days, but you learn what the benefits are. You learn why it works and why it's so important. And then again, it's assigning meaning. When you know more about the benefits, you're more likely to stick to the practice. And then you get addicted. You feel so good after you quiet your mind, turn within. Intuition starts to speak a lot louder. You sleep deeper. It's just the benefits are off the charts. You really release healing chemistry and joyful chemistry into your body.
And did you do TM meditation from learning all of this, or I thought you already did meditation.
I did. I started in 2007.
But were you doing TM meditation in 2007? Oh, okay.
I first learned that. Now I kind of have a bunch of guided meditations on my phone. Right. I call those my lazy meditations. Yeah. I'm just I just need to shut down, but I just don't have the wherewithal to sit and say my mantra. I just want to lie horizontal and put a guided meditation in. All of it's beneficial.
Exactly. I mean, either way. So you do that twice a day?
I do it once a day now. I make sure I do it once a day, and it's do what you can. If you only start with 5 minutes a day, and then go up to 10, and then go up to 40.
How much do you do now? How long?
I at least do 20 to 30 a day.
Okay, that's better than most. It's better than me. And it's made a big difference.
Huge. It's life-changing. You just have, Marianne Williamson talks about it beautifully in the film, and she says, look, we take a shower, we wash our physical body every day. We need to wash away our mental stress. We need to clean our mental state, because we're just taking on so much information, so much negativity every day. And to turn within and turn away from that stimulation, get into your heart, focus on your breath. We also don't breathe correctly throughout the day. We're holding our breath a lot of time. Right now, not about.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, do you want some water? Yeah. I was going to say, there's some water there. You got a bottle there. Anytime, just take a breath. Okay. We're obviously on these treadmills, so I think people are kind of thrown off when they're they expect to be sitting down.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
It's just it's a different format for sure. Yeah. That's good for your brain. And your blood flow.
Yes.
So, okay, what are some other habits that you do daily to be healthy?
Well, I think, there's the 9 key healing factors that Kelly Turner discovered.
Tell us who Kelly Turner is for those of you who don't know, that didn't read the book yet or see the movie.
So Kelly Turner
recommend.
Thank you. Kelly Turner is a cancer researcher. She was getting her doctorate, and she was seeing all of these spontaneous healing cases come up, and she's like, why is nobody studying those? Doctors would just dismiss them as these anomalies, and she's like, no, there's so she studied 1,500 cases of radical remission, which were people who had late stage cancer that their doctors told them there was nothing else they could do, and they were sent home to die, and they didn't die. So she said she found 75 different things that all these people did, but every single one of them did a version of these 9 things.
I love this, but yeah. Tell us what that, let's talk about that.
God, I don't know if I can say them off the top of my head.
There's 2, the ones that I see here, there's there were 75 different things that people have done to try. Only 2 were physical.
Yes.
I saw that.
Which is radically changing your diet and using herbs and supplements.
Right.
And the rest, the other 7, are mental, emotional, and spiritual, which I think doesn't just apply to cancer. I think
Do you remember what they are? I want to look and see, because I thought that was a really good...
I can try to spit them off. So one is following your intuition. One is increasing positive emotions. One is releasing suppressed negative emotions, healing past trauma. One is finding strong reasons for living. Obviously, like your kids, your mission in life, loved ones, friends, whatever it is. One is, what's the other ones? Where am I? How many have I said?
You said enough. I mean, I think the point is that a lot
finding
of these
social support.
Social support. So a lot. I think having purpose. I think a lot of times when people don't have purpose, that's when things kind of also go like willy-nilly, right? And like and having loved ones, knowing that people care about you, the social stuff. Like these are things that people undervalue in someone's true health.
Yes.
Right. Which make a huge difference.
Exactly. And Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, who's this like sound healer, he's a neuroacoustic wizard, one of the smartest people I've ever met, if not the smartest. I asked him one question in the interview. He talked for an hour and a half.
What did you ask him?
What do you do? And he talked, we like ended up at Schrodinger's cat, which is this like whole quantum physical major study. But so
what was the basics? What was like the Coles Notes version of what he said?
He basically says, you come to a fork in your road in your life, and you have your passion, which is what we're talking about, and then you have the safe thing, which is you become a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is that your dad pressures you into doing in society, whatever it is. So you walk away from your purpose here on life, and you do the safe thing, or the thing that you think is going to bring you happiness because it's more money or whatever. And he said that's when disease starts. So he, and I think that's so important. It's like that your purpose here. And it's, on a very small scale, it's like acting. I thought I was meant to be an actor. I loved playing pretend and making films and whatever. But if I paid attention, I was not happy. It was almost draining going down that path. And talking about all of this stuff lit me up. And that's life force energy. So if you're in a dead-end job or a 9-to-5 job, or you're indoors and you're not, but you really want to be an artist or whatever that may be, you're denying that part of yourself. You're literally cutting off your life force, and that ultimately takes a toll on your physical body. Yeah,
like it eats away at you, eats away at your soul, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to find purpose. And even if you can't find purpose in some people, like not everyone has the ability to find purpose in their career or job because not everyone has that luxury. But then find some kind of passion outside of that where you get lit up. Yes. Basically, because it's so fundamental for your health,
and it generates joy. Which is healing.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so walk us through some more stuff that you do besides meditation every day, because we got that one. Like, what's your daily routine now? Like, what do you do every day?
Well, it's a little off and wonky right now because I have a 5-month-old baby.
I was going to say, congratulations.
Thank you.
I saw that you had a little baby.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh.
She kind of takes over my schedule. But.
Well, by the way, you look amazing.
Oh, thank you.
No, 5 months.
It's like,
girl, amazing.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. What's her name?
Riley. Riley Grace.
Beautiful.
She's amazing.
Is she your only baby?
She's my only baby.
Okay.
And everyone's like, you are so lucky because she's super chill.
Oh, you are lucky.
I try to take her outside every day and put both of our feet in the earth because, again,
I saw that.
Yeah. I did it while I was pregnant, and it totally calms your nervous system. It lowers anxiety and depression and lowers your blood pressure and does all these healing benefits. So
you put your feet in like on actual like earth or like on the grass?
Grass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you're not putting, because I have some friends
grass,
who do it actually
anything.
In dirt.
Yeah, sand at the beach, anything where you're just in direct connection with the earth.
You do that every day?
Yeah. I try to do it every day, but I'm fairly sure I've been doing it every day.
Most days. Okay, so that's one of your things.
And if you live in New York City, there's earthing mats that you can get that you plug into a grounded outlet, and you get the same effect. So they're designing technology. Obviously, being in the fresh air and the sunlight also has its benefits. So do that as much as you can on the weekends. But even at work, you can just put your bare feet on a grounding mat and get similar benefits.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. A lot of people who are very much into holistic and into all of that stuff do it, and they swear by it. I've heard that before. And you do gratitude journaling too.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
I saw. And it's also in the book, by the way, as a way for preventative health, right?
Yes, and also Joe Dispenza, who is the fellow who wrote my foreword, and he has his own healing story in the book, which is remarkable. He basically used his mind and his awareness and focus, kind of meditating, visualizing his spine being healed, and
So he was a guy, just so people, I don't think people know, he was paralyzed, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in a triathlon and he got hit, and they told him he'd probably never walk again. So he was just lying in bed, and he was a chiropractor, so he had some background of information that he could help with his visualization. But he said, he just had this defiance, like, I'm not gonna live in a wheelchair. Like, I'm an athlete, I gotta get back. So he just every day pictured his spine like regenerating, and then he would combine the feeling with the visualization. So he wasn't just using his thoughts, he was using his heart and his feelings. So he'd remember what it would be like to take a shower again, or watch a sunset with a loved one and hold their hand. These things that he didn't think he'd be able to do again. And just feeling the feelings. And he came up with this formula. He says, combining an intention and this visualization with the elevated emotion is like the recipe kind of for causing an effect. It's the quantum model of manifestation.
It's amazing.
So, and gratitude is probably the most elevated emotion. Gratitude, love, one of those. But so I gratitude journal just because it's a way to get your body into positive emotions when you wake up in the morning or right before you go to sleep. And what I've started to do, or what I've done for many years, is I write things that I'm actually grateful for, like my health, my baby, all these other things. And then if there's something that I want, say I wanted to heal a certain condition, I would say, I'm so happy and grateful now that I am healthy and vibrant and running 10 miles, whatever it is. You give thanks for what you desire as if you already had it. And it's just, and I started doing this like 10 years ago. And it's amazing. Like if I go back and look, it's amazing things that I've kind of manifested in my life because of that practice. And it's just, our minds are hardwired for survival to focus on the worst case scenario and fear. So this is just the flip. That's not true. That event that you're fearing will happen hasn't happened yet. That's not a true event. So why don't we condition our minds and train our minds in the opposite, in the positive, and focus on, just like what I desire hasn't manifested yet, so it's not a true event either, but let's focus our mind and our feelings and our heart on visualizing the best case scenario rather than the worst case.
No, like I said, it makes sense to me. And I mean, it sounds though like you were doing all of these things before you even made the film. Yeah. So like they weren't things that you kind of like picked up on when you were kind of doing it. It was more, I think, you were doing it, and that was just why it was so powerful for you, more than that,
Exactly. They empowered my life, all these teachers that I put in the film, and everyone's like, how are you doing all these things? And I was doing these practices that totally changed my life, and rather than explain, we didn't have social media back then when I first started.
Right.
So I just I'm just going to put all my teachers in a film, and hopefully it empowers others. Well,
how did you find them? Like, were they all, like, you live in LA?
Yeah.
Do all of these people live in LA?
No, a lot of them do. A lot of them go on. They're kind of running the same circles.
Well, that's what I know that.
Yeah.
But people just, because a lot of these people, do they even Marianne Williamson, she wasn't a teacher of yours, was she, or was she?
Someone handed me her book when I was 20 years old, and I was probably...
I think she's coming on this podcast too, from what I remember.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Are you getting on a treadmill? That'd be very...
That'd
be amazing.
Wasn't she coming on, Demetria? Yeah. So I don't know if she knows about the treadmill. You may, if you're friends with her, you may want to tell her.
Tell her to wear comfy shoes.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. She's amazing. So she single-handedly, she may have launched me on this whole seeking journey.
Oh, wow.
When I was 19, I don't know if I was legit depressed, but I was unhappy for the first time in my life. And someone gave me her book, Return to Love, when I was traveling in Australia. Completely changed my whole
Really?
Yeah. So she's kind of planted the biggest seed to send me on this whole, and I was 20 or 19.
On this whole journey.
This was 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then who is Michael Beckwith? I see him all the time. I hear his name. He's involved in a couple of different things that I've seen and that I'm actually on the periphery involved with.
Yeah.
What does he do?
He started a church called Agape, International Spiritual Center, and it's a trans-denominational church. He, reads, gives sermons from all sorts of, it's basically the universal principles underlying all religions. And agape means love. And I started going to Agape about the same time that I started thinking of this documentary 10 years ago. And
so you were, like I said, you were like kind of one of the first, you're like a pioneer in this a little bit. Like you were kind of doing all of this before it became the trendy thing, really. And then you kind of brought it to life in a time when it's now kind of everyone's kind of involved in jumping on the bandwagon. You were just kind of someone who was just like really passionate about it.
Super passionate. And again, for selfish reasons. I wanted to get out of my own way. I wanted to manifest that Oscar and all this stuff that is funny now, but it got me to where I am here.
And it's ironic that now, you're for so many years you're trying to be on the other side of the lens. And now you have this like crazy successful documentary that's where you're on the other, behind the scenes. Are you going to do any other documentaries like this?
I may. For Heal, everybody's like, when's Heal 2 coming out?
Yeah. I was going to ask the same question. I'm glad I didn't. I was just going to be like a Me Too.
Me too. But it's, there's all these great limited series, docu-series on Netflix. So our vision is there's so much to explore. There's so many amazing doctors out there doing more functional, integrative things. There's amazing treatments all over the world, that breakthrough treatments in cancer and that aren't really available in the United States yet, or because of powers that be. So there's so much to explore and so many inspiring stories of healing that will strengthen people's belief. So we're developing the Heal television series. So we'll see if that goes.
I think that's great. That would be on, not necessarily, but are you trying to get that on Netflix?
Ideally, yeah.
So then did you make the film and then Netflix picked it up? Or was it did you sell it first to Netflix and then you kind of?
Yeah, so we found a distributor. They actually came to us. It's like they're one of the top tier distributors for documentaries, and it was in the flow. Like they came to us. We didn't usually have to like bang on doors and like get your thing sold, and
it's a whole thing.
And this guy just got it, and we're so thankful. So we released it on iTunes digitally, and then they had the rights to negotiate the SVOD deal, or the subscription model, and so they reached out to Netflix. They were trying to pitch it. And then Netflix was like, oh, no, we're not requiring any independent content. We're going to put all our money into creating our own
originals,
And I was like, dude, you can't just overnight just like stop acquiring. There's going to be time where it takes to develop content. And like so I told him, I was just like, I want to be at Netflix, keep knocking on the door. And like 2 months later, they made the deal. But then they said it's not going to be for another year that we release it. So we're like, no, but again, divine timing. It all worked out.
I really love that. That's like real hustle at its finest, or I think it's very bold. Like you wouldn't take no for an answer. And so how did you do it though? Did you get the same guy? Did you find someone else at Netflix to be a champion, or how did you get them to finally say yes?
I think just our distributor, the guy that
he just pounded and pounded on the door.
Yeah, he was like, look, they kept,
That's great.
And like health docs were kind of becoming What the Health, I think, came out.
No, there's a million of
them.
them. And like there's another one, is that the one with the health there's a guy, I think a Canadian guy, who every episode talks about something different. About a different myth or fad or whatever. I'm telling you, it's so timely, all of this. I think that TV show is going to be, well, if it happens, it'd be so great.
Thank you.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, see?
You got one viewer.
I got one viewer.
You got one. You got one.
Include in the pitch.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on, Kelly. This was really informative and obviously something I'm very passionate about. And I hope everyone, if you haven't seen the movie on Netflix, you should watch it. And Kelly's book, Heal, is out. It's out. So you should go grab one. So how do people find you if they just want to like know you and hear more about what you're doing? And
Sure. Yeah, you can follow at Heal Documentary on social media. We put out inspiring content, and it's just a good place to follow. And then me personally is at Kelly Gores. I'm most active on Instagram, so sorry I'm going to bombard you with pictures of Riley lately, but that's where I am.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. This is great information, and you're doing wonderful things by like spreading these messages. So I thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.